Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and listen to the song from start to finish and begin to jot down some things that I hear that I feel like might need changed. Yet again, without touching anything, plugins, faders, anything. Okay, I'm going to begin by selecting all the tracks at once. I can either double click on the top track, which will do the same, or I can also hold Control and A yet again. And then I'll hold the Shift and L button to make sure that I loop the song in its entirety. And now, without touching any faders, without adjusting any plugins, I'm simply going to listen to the song critically all the way through once.
You've got a sacred heart, but you don't know how to use it. Always letting strangers take it and abuse it. And you're so used to getting hurt now, it doesn't faze you. But you get kicked to the dirt, and doesn't it amaze you? The things people do to feel loved. Without someone they don't feel good enough. Don't go searching. You're supposed to be found by the right one, but you just want someone new to pick up the pieces of your heart on the ground. But you'll forget all of them when you're found. You have to love yourself before anyone else can, and wait for the moment when you least expect it, to get swept off of your feet and feel something magical. We're so used to tragedy, your heart is entangled. Things people do to feel loved. You're so close to giving up. Don't go searching. You're supposed to be found by the right one, but you just want someone new to pick up the pieces of your heart on the ground. But you'll forget all of them when you're there. When you're there. Don't go searching. Someday you'll be found, and it'll make sense when nobody else worked out, and they'll pick up the pieces of your heart on the ground. But you'll forget all of them when you're found.
Okay, so after my first initial pass, this is what I've got. One of the first things that I want to do is actually remove the Hammond B3 track until the chorus 1 kicks in, or at least automate it down until then. So that'll be the very first thing that I attack, and I'll do that first as it is on my list. So it looks like previously I had automated that to come in a little bit louder on the chorus anyway. So now it'll just sort of fade in like it's supposed to and fade back down to a normal and manageable volume at that point anyway. So I can go ahead and check that one off. I'm also going to remove the slide guitar in verse 1 until the chorus as well, but I'm going to leave it in at the intro. The great thing about this is all of this is able to be undone, and with a checklist of things that I have undone, it allows me to, if I have not saved things properly or been saving along the way, it allows me then to go back and see what I've changed. So if I need to reverse anything, it's already on the list as far as what I've done. All right, I can check that out. Now the symbols on chorus 1 need to come down. I put by 1 dB. That's just to let me know that it doesn't need to be by much. So the way that I'll address this is actually go to my room track here, or rather my overhead track. And on chorus 1, you can see here are the spikes where the cymbals are hitting. Okay. So I'll just simply automate that down a tad bit here. Okay. Okay. And then lastly, we will go right here. Okay, now all of the middle portions that are between the two here, I'll just simply drop down by roughly 1 dB. If I go a little bit more or a little bit less, it's fine. Okay. I can go ahead and check that out. The background vox needs to be down a little bit at verse 2. The good thing is the background vox only comes in on verse 2. So I can just simply highlight both of those tracks and just bring them down ever so slightly. All right, we can check that off. Remove the acoustic guitar 2 from the rest. That's going to be found here. Okay, so the rest actually begins right here. So I'm going to go ahead and remove it here. Make sure that fades out, fades back in. Let's hear that in context with the rest of the mix.
Don't go searching. Someday you'll be found, and it'll when nobody else put down, and they'll pick up.
Okay, so that actually needs to come back in right here. And then I'm actually going to, that was next on my list, was to bring it back in and automate it a little bit louder in the outro. Now, if you remember correctly, the song started with this sound as it was the original artist's sound that she wanted left in it. So now I'm going to end it with that sound to sort of give it closure to the track.
Else put down, and they'll pick up the pieces of your heart on the ground, but you'll forget all of them when you're found.
All right, great. Now with those changes implemented, I'm going to go ahead and give a second listen, yet again, not touching anything, and just kind of see where we are from there. Okay, now I've listened to a second pass, and this is what I got from that. I feel like I need to automate the Vox up just a dB or maybe even 2 at the chorus. I'm going to do this a little bit differently, and I'm going to show you exactly how I'm going to do that. I also feel like the guitar delays at one portion of this actually have a little bit of too much honk in them, and I need to go in and surgically remove that as well. And last but not least, I need to automate the Vox delay at the rest to make it a little bit more present during that rest portion. So let's go ahead and dive into this. So the way that I'm going to bring up the lead vocals is actually bring up the sound of the Vox thickener track. This is going to add a little bit of a different sound to the chorus than what would be found in the verses as well. So this is going to be a win-win, or at least I hope. Okay, I'm going to bring that up by closely about 2.83 dBs. I'm also going to go ahead to the next chorus and go ahead and implement the same thing here. And I'll probably bring it up just a little bit more even at the crescendo. Okay, I feel like that should probably take care of that. Let's go ahead and give it a listen.
You're so close to giving up. Don't go searching. You're supposed to be found by the right one, but you just want someone now to pick up the pieces of your heart on the ground, but you'll forget all of them when you're Don't go searching. Someday you'll be.
Okay. Feel like that made that a little bit better. Now this guitar delay honk, I want to address that. I feel like that's mainly here on verse 2 where it gets louder.
Things people do to feel loved. You're so close to giving up.
Okay. Because I already have the EQ set on the Pro channel, I'm just going to go ahead and insert an instance of the Sonitus equalizer. Okay, let's hear that in context with the mix now.
Tragedy, your heart is entangled. Things people do to feel hurt. You're so close to giving up. Don't go searching. You're supposed to be found by the right one, but you just want someone now to pick up the pieces of your heart on the ground. But you'll forget all of them when you're there. When you're
Okay, I feel like that sounds a lot better there. And now at this rest, I'm going to go ahead and automate the Vox delay to come up just a little bit. Find my delay bus here. And we'll just automate the volume on the bus itself. Should make it a lot easier.
Don't go searching.
It should be pretty straightforward. Just take a listen to that.
Don't go searching. Someday you'll be found and it'll make sense. When no. Don't go searching. Someday you'll be found and it'll make sense. When nobody else worked out, and they'll pick up the pieces of.
A little bit more.
Don't go searching. Someday you'll be found and it'll make sense. When nobody else worked out, and they'll pick up.
Okay, I feel like the delays are still having a little bit of a problem, just trying to poke through there. And I have the EQ set to where I feel like it should be doing exactly what it needs to do. So I'm going to go ahead and insert a send on this to the saturation channel.
Don't go searching. Someday you'll be found and it'll make sense. When nobody else worked out, and they'll pick up the pieces of.
Okay, that definitely brought it closer to where I felt like it needed to be. I'm going to go ahead and insert 2 sends to the saturation, and I'm going to pan these left and right.
Don't go searching. Someday you'll be found and it'll make sense. When nobody else worked out, and they'll pick up the pieces of your heart on the ground.
Now I can simply adjust the volume on the saturation to get that where I'd like for it to set.
When you're there. Don't go searching. Someday you'll be found and it'll make sense. When nobody else worked out, and they'll pick up the pieces of your heart on the ground. But you'll forget all of them when you're found.
Okay, now I want to make sure that the sidechain compression that I've got set on this will actually still be working like it's supposed to.
When you're there. where nobody else would dare, and they'll pick up the pieces that...
Okay, that definitely sounds a little bit better now. I'm going to go ahead and give this a check, and we're going to go for a third and hopefully a final pass. Okay, now on the third and hopefully, yet again, the final pass, which I'll probably end up doing a fourth at least, I noticed that the Vox delay needs to come down at the first verse, and there's a little bit of low mid mud that I want to carve out as well from the entire mix itself. So if you'll notice here in verse 1, whenever I begin to play this track,
You've got a sacred heart, but you don't know how to use it. Always letting strangers take it and abuse it.
so at this point, the Vox delay is just a little bit overpowering for everything else that's going on in the mix. So I'm just going to go ahead and turn it down just at verse 1 here. Until I can no longer hear it overpowering.
You've got a sacred heart, but you don't know how to use it. Always
And that sounds good to me. And now I'm going to address the low mid mud. I'm going to look at the span plugin here to see if it's something I'm actually hearing or if it's just the fact that I switched headphones.
You've got a sacred heart, but you don't know how to use it. Always letting strangers take it and abuse it. And you're so used to getting hurt now, it doesn't faze you. But you get kicked to the dirt, and doesn't it amaze you? The things people do to feel loved. Without someone, they don't feel good enough. Don't go searching. You're supposed to be found by the right one, but you just want someone new to pick up the pieces of your heart on the ground.
Okay, so as you can see here with the span plugin enabled, it's actually doing an average behind it here, and then it's showing the max amplitude of certain frequencies here. Now, the only thing that I do see is just around in this area here, there is a little bit of a boost, and that's around the 600 hertz range. So I think if I go ahead and carve that out just a hair, it should bring this back to where I feel like it needs to be. So I'm going to go ahead and implement the Sonatus EQ above the limiter. I'm going to set this here to 600 hertz, make sure it has a wide Q of 0.8, and bring it out by about 1.5 dBs. See if that sounds any better to my ears.
You've got a sacred heart, but you don't know how to use it. Always letting strangers take it and abuse it. And you're so used to getting hurt now, it doesn't faze you. But you get kicked to the dirt, and doesn't it amaze you? The things people do to feel loved. Without someone, they don't feel good enough.
can see from the max now, the amplitude in that area seems to be smoothed out just a little more. I like the way that that's looking, and I can definitely hear a dramatic difference. As subtle as it may seem, it definitely sounds dramatic, at least to my ears. So the next thing I'm going to do now, I'm going to go ahead and call this done as far as the passes are concerned. But I want to also implement something else that I have yet to do on the master bus. Okay, so I'm going to implement an instance of the 𝗧𝗵𝗲 for you meter fader and mid-side pan. I won't be using the panning option. I'll simply be using the fader itself, and I'll be setting this fader up to where it can be right enabled. What I'm going to do is place this before the adaptive limiter and after the equalizer. And essentially all I'm going to do is let this mix play out from its entirety and just ride the fader and bring up subtleties and also take away at certain key points. Essentially, I'm going to create a little bit more dynamics within the mix as a whole by just creating small volume changes. So let's go back to the beginning. I've got it on loop. So I'm going to take the loop off. I'm going to select right enable, and I'm going to hold the shift button while I'm moving this plugin, which will allow me to make small incremental changes instead of big swooping movements. And now I'm simply just going to play the mix and ride the fader while it's playing.
You've got a sacred heart, but you don't know how to use it. Always letting strangers take it and abuse it. And you're so used to getting hurt now, it doesn't faze you. But you get kicked to the dirt, and doesn't it amaze you? The things people do to feel loved. Without someone, they don't feel good enough. Don't go searching. You're supposed to be found by the right one, but you just want someone new to pick up the pieces of your heart on the ground. But you'll forget all of them when you're found. You have to love yourself before anyone else can, and wait for the moment when you least expect it, to get swept off of your feet and feel something magical. They're so used to tragedy, your heart is entangled. Things people do to feel loved. You're so close to giving up. Don't go searching. You're supposed to be found by the right one, but you just want someone new to pick up the pieces of your heart on the ground. But you'll forget all of them when you're there. When you're there. Don't go searching. Someday you'll be found, and it'll make sense when nobody else looked down, and they'll pick up the pieces of your heart on the ground. But you'll forget all of them when you're found.
Okay, so obviously that wasn't perfect, but there were definitely a lot of changes in there that I feel like took place at just the right time. Now, there are some places where the dips might have got just a little bit out of hand. However, I can always make those fine-tune adjustments here. overall, though, I feel like it really took on a whole new just vibe in and of itself. So I'm going to go ahead and take the right enable off, and I'm going to go ahead and call this ready for a 4th pass. All right, with all of the last changes that were implemented and the extra volume automation that we've done on the master bus, I believe now this song is officially come to a point where I can say the mix is done. Let's go ahead and listen to it all the way through and see where all of these changes have got us so far.
You've got a sacred heart, but you don't know how to use it. Always letting strangers take it and abuse it. And you're so used to getting hurt now, it doesn't faze you. But you get kicked to the dirt, and doesn't it amaze you? The things people do to feel loved. Without someone they don't feel good enough. Don't go searching. You're supposed to be found by the right one, but you just want someone new to pick up the pieces of your heart on the ground. But you'll forget all of them when you're found. You have to love yourself before anyone else can, and wait for the moment when you least expect it to get swept off of your feet and feel something magical. We're so used to tragedy, your heart is entangled. The things people do to feel loved. You're so close to giving up. Don't go searching. You're supposed to be found by the right one, but you just want someone new to pick up the pieces of your heart on the ground. But you'll forget all of them when you're when you're don't go searching. Someday you'll be found, and it'll make sense when nobody else worked out, and they'll pick up the pieces of your heart on the ground. But you'll forget all of them when you're found.
All right, so I think the mix has definitely come a long way. And one way that we can definitely check this is to go to this FX button here, which will bypass all the audio effects and allow us to hear basically how the mix was when we first started or got our rough mix. Let's go ahead and bypass all of the effects now, and we'll just go straight to verse 1 and take a listen.
You've got a sacred heart, but you don't know how to use it. Always letting strangers take it and abuse it. And you're so used to getting hurt now, it doesn't faze you.
Okay, now let's enable the effects again and listen to that again.
You've got a sacred heart, but you don't know how to use it. Always letting strangers take it and abuse it. And you're so used to getting hurt now, it doesn't faze you. But you get kicked to the dirt, and doesn't it amaze you? The things people do to feel love.